Welcome everybody, I'm Andrea Miller and I'm a registered dietitian and certified diabetes educator here at community hospitals and wellness centers. And I'd like to welcome you all to Live It Zzzz. So today I have a special guest with me. I have Todd Davis and he is the director of the Sleep Lab here at community hospitals and wellness centers. And the Sleep Lab is primarily based, is it in Montpelier?
It's in Montpelier.
Okay, so you spend most of your time over in Montpelier.
Yep,
So
all my time up there.
thank you for joining us today in Bryan for a cooking demonstration.
Thanks for having me.
So we're going to get started here getting the food cooking because some of it does take a while to simmer. But what we're going to be making today is a turkey cutlet with a tart cherry sauce. And obviously some of these things have some ties to sleep, so we'll discuss those as we go in a little bit. But the first thing we're gonna do is start getting our cherries chopped up. And maybe I'll have you start that while I get the onion cut up. I'm gonna have you do the cherries and I'll do the onion so that you don't have to worry about going back to the Sleep Lab and smelling like onions, right? So.
How do you want them cut up?
So what we're going to do is we're just going to take these little tart cherries and just cut them in half. And there's no seeds in the middle. These are frozen cherries. And then just slide them aside, you know, as you finish that up. I'm going to get going on the onion and get that going. You don't need very much onion in this recipe. Just about 1/3 of a cup. So, and you want it pretty finely diced because this is a sauce. So we'll cut the top and bottom off the onion. Get the skins off. And I have all over my knife now. Again, my trick to dice an onion very fine, which I've showed you many times, is to set it on its end and make 3 slices. Then I set it flat, cut side down, and make slices going almost to the end of it. And slice across. Again, you just want this as fine as possible. And you don't need very much because it's just supposed to add just a little bit of flavor to our sauce. We're not making a sweet sauce today. We're using, again, the tart cherries, and then we're using a lot of savory ingredients. So it's going to be a very savory, fruity sauce. So a little bit different than what a lot of people might expect. So I'm going to add about a tablespoon or a little bit less of olive oil in the bottom of a saucepan. And turn our heat on. And then get some onion in there. And let the onion start cooking. And then once that starts to soften and turn translucent, we'll add in the cherries and all of the other ingredients. Get that starting. See a teeny tiny little skin in there. Okay, so again, Todd's cutting up our tart cherries, and we got the tart cherries today. Like I said, they're frozen, and we got them at Chief. They're one of my favorite frozen fruits to buy at Chief. The brand is called Nature Blessed, I believe, and they're actually grown in Michigan, so they're a nice local fruit. And they come in like these big bags, and in all honesty, I probably keep about 2 to 3 bags in my freezer at all times because tart cherries are one of my absolute favorite fruits. So growing up, we actually had a tart cherry tree in our backyard. And let me tell you, these are way more convenient than the tart cherry trees we had growing up in our yard because when you grow them fresh, you have to pit them. And pitting this many cherries could take you, about 15 minutes, a half an hour. So it's pretty labor intensive. So when they're frozen, they're already pitted. You don't have to worry about that. We'll get our,
Ready for some cherries?
we're gonna let this soften just a couple seconds more. Ways that I like to use tart cherries, again, they're great in a sauce like this. Our favorite way to eat them is to put them in our oatmeal in the morning. So we throw them frozen right into the oatmeal with the uncooked oats, cover it with water, pop it in the microwave, and then the cherries are cooked, the oats are cooked, and it's a really delicious and nutritious breakfast. So, or bedtime snack, which we'll talk about later. So we're still letting this brown just a tiny bit. I'm going to get the onions good and cooked before we add in the cherries. You didn't know I was going to give you such a tedious job today, did you?
Sweating. I'm
Cut
working.
every single little tiny cherry in half. But hey, at least you won't smell like onions.
That's right.
Have you ever had tart cherries, Todd?
No, I haven't. Well, just recently.
You just recently. Did you try one? There you go. What was your thought on the tart cherry?
They're tart.
They're tart. They are. Yes.
And cold.
Yep, they are. Yep, they were frozen. So actually, it was one of my son's favorite, not baby foods, but transition foods as he was starting solids. I would take frozen cherries, these frozen cherries and blueberries, and I'd cut the cherries in half, and they were fun for him to pick up. And it was almost like a little, baby popsicle when he was around 9 months old. He'd pick up the blueberries and the cherries, and that was one of his favorite breakfasts. I remember tart cherries, blueberries, and Cheerios. So, all right. The onions are brown, so I'm going to go ahead and dump the cherries in. Perfect. You did a great job cutting those up.
Thank you.
And then we're going to add some liquid as well. We're going to add 6 tablespoons of chicken broth. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we're going to add a white balsamic vinegar, which you may not be familiar with. Flavors similar to a balsamic vinegar. You can use regular balsamic vinegar in this recipe as well. But when you add something brown to something red, it's going to turn it more brown. So if you don't have a problem with that, then use the regular balsamic vinegar, or if you want it to stay a little bit more red and festive, you can add the white balsamic vinegar. So we're adding 6 tablespoons of that too, which is going to take a second because it pours really slowly. Todd, you can help me count.
That's 2.
2.
3. 4. 5. 6.
All right. So we'll give that a little stir. And then it's going to sit there for a while and simmer and reduce. And then the last thing we'll add at the very end is some Dijon mustard. And then we're going to serve it over our cherry cutlets. So while that is simmering, Todd, I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about the sleep lab. So we know it's in Montpelier. So what do you do at the sleep lab?
Well, at the sleep lab, we do testing primarily for what people know as obstructive sleep apnea. Mm-hmm. We've been there 23 years.
Okay.
We have 2 beds that we can do 2 patients a night.
Uh-huh.
And we have patients come in the evenings. They get hooked up with some wires, and we explain everything that we're going to do. We put them into the bed, and then we monitor different channels during the night to see what they're doing. Typically, they'll have a first night, which is a diagnostic night,
Okay.
and then a second night if they need it for treatment.
Okay. Interesting. So the thought that comes through my head is if somebody hooked me up with a bunch of wires and told me to sleep, I don't know that I'd be able to fall asleep.
Right, and that's a lot of people wonder about that, but typically the patients that we get in the sleep lab are so tired and so exhausted that they really don't notice the wires or care. And one of the reasons we have them come in early in the evening is so that we can hook them up early. They go to the lounge, they can have a snack or something, watch some TV, and they get used to feeling the wires.
Right.
So when they go to bed, it's not anything real new to them. You know, they've had them on for a while.
They feel more comfortable in the environment after time passes.
Yeah.
And, you know, somebody that is not sleeping well, not getting a restful sleep due to sleep apnea that is diagnosed with sleep apnea and treated, what kinds of changes do you see in their lives?
Okay. That's the one thing about working in the sleep lab that myself and the staff feel really blessed about, because we see results almost immediately on a lot of patients. So when they come in and they're severe, they have bad sleep apnea and stuff, and then we're able to put them on a machine, titrate them throughout the night, give them a wonderful night's sleep, something they haven't felt in years, and they wake up and they feel completely refreshed. They haven't slept like that in a long time.
Right.
And they are thrilled.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, so.
And I've heard that it can have an impact on like weight loss for people that, you know, aren't getting a good night's sleep. You know, sleep can affect, you know, weight at times too.
You know, a lot of our patients are overweight, not all of them. We have patients that are relatively normal, small, that have severe apnea. But it's a vicious cycle for a lot of patients, because once the weight comes on, then they start sleeping even worse.
Right.
And so they get less sleep. And then they don't have the energy to do really anything.
Right.
They don't really overeat. It's just they don't have the metabolism, and they're not moving enough to really burn off any of that weight.
Right.
And it just keeps growing, and as they get bigger, the sleep even gets worse and worse and worse.
A vicious cycle.
Right. So what this treatment does is gives them a good night's sleep.
Yep.
With the idea and hopes that they'll build up their energy, they'll get active, and be able to exercise or walk or do things with the family that they haven't been able to do before.
Be more motivated to make better food choices even.
Exactly, right. So when they do that, then hopefully the weight starts coming off. I can't really say that I've had many people come off of the machine, but we have had patients where we've been able to lower the pressures, and they've done really well.
Right.
So
that's awesome to have such an impact on somebody's life in that way.
right, it is.
What are some other conditions that you deal with in the sleep lab that you diagnose?
We do a lot of kids, and they're typically, you know, large tonsils, adenoids, that type of thing that's affecting their sleep. So we'll do diagnostic testing on them, and typically, if they become positive for sleep apnea or severe snoring, that type of thing, they'll be referred to an ENT.
Okay.
And typically, they'll have their tonsils taken out and that type of thing. They don't necessarily go on BiPAP or CPAP.
Okay.
We have, you know, a lot of people suffer from leg conditions. Restless leg syndrome keeps them from being able to get to sleep. We can test for that and watch, and it can be really disruptive to patients.
Sure.
Their legs just kick methodically during the night and keeps waking them up, and they don't know why.
Right. You said there's a natural treatment for that that can help. Maybe not,
it can help.
Be fully effective, but something that can help. And what did you?
Vitamin E.
Vitamin E.
Yeah. 800 microunits of vitamin E typically will help with restless legs or leg movements during the night.
Sure. Certainly making sure you're getting adequate vitamin E, which is a nutrient that some people might not be getting enough of.
Right.
It's in a lot of oils, olive oils and other types of oils. Making sure you're getting enough every day would be a good, you know, just for everybody to do.
Right.
So, our sauce is looking great. So what are your thoughts on food and sleep?
Well, you know, typically you don't want to eat anything after 6 p.m. or after supper. You want to limit what you eat and the type of food that you eat. You want to stay away from the caffeine. You want to stay away from anything alcohol-wise. I know a lot of people say, well, it helps me get to sleep. And it does. It will relax you and it will get you to sleep. But as alcohol metabolizes during the night, it actually fragments your sleep and you really end up having a worse night.
Right.
And so, yeah. And they say no caffeine after 3 p.m.
Yeah,
so you want to stay away from coffee, sodas, chocolate.
Yeah.
Ice cream.
No chocolate cake or chocolate ice cream in the evening, right?
No, that's not conducive to good sleep.
Or pop with dinner.
Right. So try to keep it water, caffeine-free stuff. You know, caffeine-free tea, that type of stuff, if you want.
Right. There's some teas that are, you know, caffeine-free, and they're also, you know, conducive to sleep, like chamomile tea, for example.
Correct.
A lot of, you know, sleepy time blend teas can be a soothing beverage rather than alcohol or, you know, pop or a caffeinated tea.
We know in life that we take time to celebrate life events. We help families honor the lives of those they love by highlighting what made their loved ones special and honoring the legacy that was left.
We are often very busy, but we encourage families to slow down, take time to gather together, and celebrate the impact their loved one had on their life. Allow us to work with you when the need arises to create a personalized and meaningful service. Oberlin Turnbull Funeral Home, we are always here when you need us.
Here at the Williams County Veteran Service Office, our mission is plain and simple. We are here to serve our local Williams County veterans and their dependents. We are staffed with trained service officers who have the compassion and understanding to assist their fellow veterans in obtaining all federal and state benefits that they have earned. Additionally, we provide emergency financial assistance and transportation to VA medical centers. So if you're a veteran or a dependent of a veteran, stop in today and see how we can help you at the Williams County Veteran Service Office.
You're one of a kind, unique in every way. Shouldn't your home be too? King's Flooring and Furniture in downtown Defiance. 20,000 square feet of showroom with style and quality you won't find anywhere else. And they're an outlet store too, so you can find the pieces you've always wanted and not crush your budget. It doesn't stop at furniture either. King's has one of the largest selections of flooring and tile in the area. Find them on the web at kingsflooringandfurniture.com. King's Flooring and Furniture in downtown Defiance. They have just what you're looking for.
It's a beautiful day out here at Bryan Ford, but it's not going to stay like this for long. Winter's coming and we got a great selection of four-wheel drive vehicles for you.
Like this 2018 Edge, it's all-wheel drive, has dual power seats and dual climate control.
Or this 2016 Ford Escape. It's got dual power seats, dual climate control, and a touchscreen navigation.
So if you need something a little bigger, this 2016 Explorer can be the perfect fit for you. It's got 3 rows, Vista sunroof, and dual climate control.
So we can get you ready for winter here at Bryan Ford Lincoln. So come down today.
And some foods will have a melatonin in them. And a lot of people like to take melatonin, but there's natural things that you can take that.
I'm glad you brought that up because Tart Cherries is actually one of the foods that is a source of naturally occurring melatonin, and that's why I chose it today to use.
So all these people are going to eat it and they're going to fall asleep when they get back to work.
Exactly. Nobody's going to be able to go back to work today. Sorry, guys. Hospital shutting down. So, no, and we don't fully know the full effect of naturally occurring melatonin in foods, whether it's, you know, really helpful or not. But I did read a couple of studies that, you know, they gave people Tart Cherries and the melatonin levels in their blood actually did rise. So, yeah, so, and, you know, also melatonin, not only can it help with the circadian rhythm, but it's also an antioxidant, which is one of the main benefits of eating foods with naturally occurring melatonin like Tart Cherries. Is it's actually probably more likely to act as an antioxidant and promote wellness. And it may, you know, help sleep too. We don't know, right? There's not a good answer at this point. But let's get our other food going, just so we make sure that it's done, and that is our turkey. So I'm going to have you grab the pan down at the end there, and the flour all the way at the back. I'm going to have you just dump all of that flour right on into that pan. And then with the salt and the pepper, we're just going to do, is there a 1/4 teaspoon on your measuring spoon? We just need a tiny bit of, we'll do a 1/4
Of each?
Yeah, let's do a 1/4 teaspoon of each. Because not all of that's going to get on the turkey. We just want to season. We're going to dredge the meat in the flour so that it browns nicely when we technically pan fry it here in a second. So then we can just take the fork and just make sure all of that is all mixed in. I'm going to get some oil heating here in a pan, and we're using olive oil. And I'm just going to cover the bottom of the pan, make sure it doesn't stick. And we're using turkey cutlets today. Fact or fiction? Turkey makes you sleepy, and that's why everybody falls asleep on Thanksgiving Day.
Fact.
Fact?
Yep.
Must be a fact, right?
Yes. Yes.
So I'm actually going to say fiction. I'm going to argue with you. And if you want to dredge it around, you can. You're wearing gloves now. So yes, turkey does contain tryptophan, which is a precursor to serotonin, which makes you feel nice and relaxed, which is a precursor to melatonin, which helps to regulate your sleep-wake cycle. So there is some truth to it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, but what if I told you that chicken actually has more tryptophan than turkey? Who had chicken for lunch today, guys? Does everybody get sleepy after eating chicken? No? You go on a picnic in the summertime, do we get sleepy after having some cooked chicken? No, nobody thinks they get sleepy after eating chicken. Dairy products are a great source of tryptophan too. Milk, cheeses. I was curious myself, what about the vegan, community? How did they get it? What vegan foods are rich in tryptophan? And so oats are a really good source. Soy products like soy milk or tofu have some in it. Buckwheat. So it's in a variety of different foods. So it's probably not the tryptophan alone that makes us sleepy, although I see some eyes closing in the room. So
maybe it's us.
But what's probably more likely, so carbohydrates actually push that whole reaction to happen. So the reason why you're probably feeling sleepy on Thanksgiving is probably more, well, number one, who doesn't overeat on Thanksgiving? I mean, everybody overeats on Thanksgiving. It's probably more related to overeating in general and eating lots of carb, because we have like the pumpkin pie and the cranberry sauce and the sweet potatoes and the mashed potatoes. So it's probably a lot of it is related to eating a lot of carbohydrate on Thanksgiving Day as well. So anyway, make sure we won't burn our oil here. Give our sauce a stir. These burners are very challenging to work with sometimes because they're either very, very hot or they're off. So a little bit different than the burners that we work with at home. So I'm going to take these. And pop those on into the oil. Start letting them cook through and brown. Your heat turned back on. Yeah.
Did you cut these turkey cutlets, or can we purchase these?
You can purchase turkey cutlets, but in Bryan, Ohio, you can only purchase them every other week. So, anyway, this sauce would also go great on a pork. Or you could use chicken, like a thinly sliced chicken breast. It would go great if you can't find turkey cutlets, you could do that. Or in a pinch, you can always buy a turkey tenderloin, which I'm still trying to wrap my mind around because I didn't think that turkeys had tenderloins.
Yeah, I don't know.
But you can use a turkey tenderloin, and if you don't want to do the pan frying process, you could roast a turkey tenderloin in your oven and then slice it. So we actually cut some turkey tenderloins in a special way and kind of pounded them out to make them pan fryable for our presentation today. But yes, you can find turkey cutlets sometimes in Bryan, Ohio. So, but when you're living in Bryan, Ohio, the wonderful community that it is, and being that it's my hometown, born and raised, I love Bryan. But we're small, so we don't always have everything in the grocery stores, and that's okay. So our turkey cutlets here are starting to sizzle and cook. Our sauce is still doing great. So we talked about a lot of sources of the tryptophan, and we know one good source of melatonin. Other good sources of melatonin, do you know of any?
Naturally, not really.
Not really?
Too many foods that
Okay,
have
I've
melatonin.
heard of a couple. Pistachios,
Okay.
I've heard are a good source of naturally occurring melatonin. Walnuts, orange bell peppers. So apparently it's in a wide variety of different foods. So lots of decent sources of naturally occurring melatonin and a good source of antioxidants. The best way, in terms of making you sleepy at night, what I've seen, and I know you said don't eat after 6, but I will tell you, if I don't eat after 6, this baby is waking up hungry at like 2 a.m. So, and I require a bedtime snack. I don't know about you, but.
Sometimes.
Who are my
Sometimes I do.
bedtime snackers in the room? There has to be at least one other one. I need a bedtime snack, people.
It's all the people in the kitchen. They need.
So, and there are some people that probably a bedtime snack would not be good for, like especially if you have like any gastroesophageal reflux.
Right.
Probably not a great idea because you're going to be
Right.
dealing with that. I'm going to flip these here real quick. Nice and brown, perfect. But the best bedtime snacks for sleep actually tend to be more carbohydrate containing bedtime snacks. I've seen a little bit of evidence that if you eat some carb before bed, that actually pushes that tryptophan, serotonin, melatonin reaction to happen and can help to make you a little bit sleepy. So, if I were going to suggest a bedtime snack, complex carbs are probably, a good choice. So like fruits, whole grains, a small bowl of oatmeal, for example, might be a good bedtime snack. A little bit of yogurt. I don't know if it's a weird pregnancy craving thing or not, but my go-to in the evening is like some oat-based cereal, like a Cheerios and milk. So that puts me right to sleep. A banana.
Bananas are good.
I've heard some.
And those also help with the leg movements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Banana. So a little bit of yogurt and granola would be a good bedtime snack. So lots of different options, but again, if you're looking for that serotonin boost, from what I've seen, it tends to be more of the carbohydrate-containing snacks. So, and you could also go with, hey, if you want to incorporate some melatonin-containing foods at bedtime, a handful of pistachios, or sometimes what I'll do for a bedtime snack is I'll take the Tart Cherries. I'll heat them in the microwave for, until they're thawed, a good minute or so. And then I'll add some plain yogurt to that. So no flavoring, just the plain yogurt because the cherries sweeten it. And then just a sprinkle of some granola on top. And you could put a few pistachios on it too to really amp up that melatonin. So, another product, and we'll get this. I'm going to add a tablespoon of the Dijon.
Can you stir that in?
Sure. I'm actually adding 3 teaspoons, so. Did you get a plate? Oh. Thank you. Now, if you're at home, a meat thermometer can be really helpful to make sure that this is at the right internal temperature, which would be 165. You know, here we're just kind of eyeballing. They're pretty thin cuts. We'll give it a, it's nice, getting nice and brown on the other side, so I'm going to go ahead and plate it. Couple turkey cutlets, and then here's our beautiful, our sauce is beautiful. So we'll put that right on top. And that would be a really easy and yummy dinner any night of the week, really, but especially for a festive occasion like, hey, Thanksgiving, you don't want to make a whole turkey? Make some turkey cutlets and put some tart cherry sauce on. I bet you could throw some cranberries in there as well if you want to, you know, really make it festive. But heck, I made this in July for the first time, and it was delicious in July too. So, but what do you think?
Looks good.
Looks good.
Yep.
So, well, thank you all for joining me for Live It Zzzz. I'm officially ready for my afternoon nap. So, but does anybody have any questions before my nap? Thank you all for coming, and thank you, Todd, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.